that some countries will lead this new revolution. They will be able to dominate and conquer and exploit all the others in an even more extreme way. So some things repeat themselves, but other things are really different. I would say that maybe the most important difference is that in the past, almost all the inventions and discoveries, they gave people control of the world outside. We learned how to control the other animals, the forests, the rivers, but we never gained much power over the world inside us. And this is the big change that will happen in the 21st century. Powers we are gaining is power over the internal world, to re-engineer and manufacture bodies and brains and minds. I think Earth will be dominated by entities which are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees.
Do you feel that maybe sometimes you underestimated the human spirit? I mean, from late 19th century, maybe from Freud, they tried to explore your psychology. And also Virginia Woolf said the human spirit changed totally. But really change?
You're right. We know very little about the mind and about the spirit or the psychology of humans. It won't prevent us from gaining immense manipulative powers over ourselves. And this is one of the dangers. We had control, we had power to manipulate the world outside. We didn't understand the ecological system. And the same thing may happen with the world inside. We are far from understanding the human spirit or the human mind. And the result may be that we will face a mental collapse, similar to the ecological collapse we are seeing now. I think we are facing the danger of the distractions.
Maybe human spirit is much more adaptive than we think and we imagine.
It is very adaptive. That's certainly true. And we see it here that we still have the Stone Age bodies and Stone Age brains, and here we are flying in airplanes and then living in big cities and so forth. So we have an amazing ability to adapt. But what we see is a process of domestication of humans. We adapt the abilities that the economic system needs from us, the political system needs from us, but we neglect many other potential abilities that are deteriorating. This is what happened to the other domesticated animals. We created cows that produce enormous amounts of milk, but otherwise they are far less capable than wild cattle. Now, what the economic system needs from us is to constantly connect to the communication system. And all the new technologies, what they are doing is drawing us out of our body, disconnecting us from our senses, from our body, and connecting us instead to cyberspace. If you don't feel at home in your body, you will never feel at home in the world. My impression is that the number one cause for the feeling of alienation and stress, which has huge economic advantages, but the mental price is very, very big. Their immense impact on human history. Wars and countries and economics is also shaped by imaginary stories in people's mind. If you don't take stories seriously, you will not understand humans.
But you said the whole history is about story, but how to see the reality?
And things like money. It's a story, the story of the dollar that we agreed upon, but it's not the reality. The real answer is leave all these stories aside.
So you said you must create your own story.
No, you don't create your own story. You search for the truth, about the reality about yourself, and the key thing is to really understand the reality about yourself.
So what do you think the major flaw of your theory? Have you ever think about it?
of my theory?
Yeah, your perspective. You try to explain the whole world, the history, but what's the major flaw in the process?
Well, if I knew the major flaw, I would have corrected it. But there are definitely flaws. I mean,
do you have any kind of worry? Maybe I speak so much about the change, the process, but actually I don't understand very well. Do you have any concern? 与我同年出生的赫拉利，似乎可以将一切自圆其说。他认为凡事都是虚构的故事，包括我笃信的人文主义。相比他的确定答案，我缺少反驳的方式。让我尤为沮丧的是，他对人类精神力量的矮化。他那个呼啸而来的信息，好多人都不知道怎么反驳，就媒体就跟着他就走了。关键那些领域太复杂了，我也不懂。就我真的是，就是自己也无知嘛，不知道怎么去提出更强有力的批评，没有，不知道，只是直觉上的感受。
就是您觉得他给了那么多笃定的答案，其实不是答案。
你看塑料袋飘过来，好漂亮啊，是吧？
你看，
捕捉一个，这集就叫答案在风中飘。
真实的答案。
对对，我觉得答案在风中飘，多好这集。唯有更开放的对话，更多元的思考，才能追寻一种兼容之道，在宽阔的世界中，做一个不狭隘的人。我领教过奈斯比特的乐观。2017年一个夏日的早晨，我们在中国大饭店的咖啡厅隔桌而坐，窗外是汽车拥堵成一片的长安街，街对面是仍在修建的一座巨大的方盒子建筑，它是北京最昂贵的公寓，空气污染让楼顶灰蒙蒙的。他穿黑色长袖衫，腮上发白的胡须与浅色头发连成一片。我问到全球变暖，他提醒我去读一读30年前的畅销书。我们谈到恐怖主义，他说这显然被夸大了，现在比冷战时期安全得多。他以为我回忆起40年前他在越南的采访，他不想去报道战争的悲剧，却想知道战争中的孩子们在做什么。
掌声响起来，感谢我们嘉宾的精彩分享。 你那天发在群里的那段话，
什么呀？
就是你发在我们群里的。
我说什么？
他许诺对复杂历史的速成理解，人的价值贬得一钱不值。庸俗的技术决定论的另一个版本，像1个世纪之前，应对昔日之无知犹为未来而亢奋。
A different place.
Sorry for a very tight morning. Yeah.
Can I just ask everybody who doesn't have to be in the room to not be in the room?
Thank you.
Do you feel bored? I mean, so
Bored?
many questions.
Some
You must
questions
repeat yourself.
some questions repeat and some questions are new. So hopefully there is always at least one question which is completely new.
I mean, do you feel surprised that you become a so global phenomenon?
Yes.
What's the feeling? You said you treat like a rock star. So what's the reason for yourself?
I guess that the kind of questions that interest me are now very relevant to people all over the world, and I engage with them in accessible language that the general public can understand. I mean, there are other people who are also doing research on similar topics, but they write or they talk in such a complicated way that nobody except a handful of other professors can understand what they say. And they reach new insights and new theories. And then you need people like me who take these insights and theories and bring them to the general public.
Do you worry about that maybe you simplified their theory, or I mean you simplify the whole history of humankind? Do you worry about it?
Yes, I mean this is a constant worry. It has to be done because if you want to write the history of the world in 500 pages, you have to simplify. How do you say? Throw away the baby with the bathwater. I mean, you have to preserve some key insights, some key ideas. Otherwise, what's the point?
Talk about insight as a medieval historian.
Yeah.
I mean, historian training shape your view now.
It gives you a much broader perspective on the current and future developments. And if you look at the 19th century Industrial Revolution, a country like Britain or Germany became a powerful empire because it industrialized first. But then a country like China or like Korea suffered tremendously. It was occupied and exploited by the industrial powers. So some things repeat themselves. Every invention, every discovery usually creates new inequality. As a historian, I can raise a warning that it's very unlikely that the new powers of artificial intelligence will be shared equally between all the countries in the world. It's much more likely most of the insights you gain by looking at how things changed in the past. But then once you understand the mechanism of change, you can use this understanding to try and say something about the future.
How do you evaluate your own visionary capability?
I hope they are good. I think history is really the study of change.
Yeah.
Historians, their speciality is to study how things change in the world.
I mean, it's so funny or very paradoxical. You're trained as a historian, but people ask you like you are a prophet about future. So how do you think about it?
Now, of course, and I try to clarify it, but people don't always want to listen. I try to clarify it that I'm not a prophet. I'm not making predictions. Nobody knows what the world would be like in 30 or 50 years. It's impossible.
Now, many people read your books because they want to survive in the future.
Yes.
It's become a new social Darwinism. So how do you react to the, I mean, they are reading purpose.
This is one of the problems of writing books and being an author, that you have no control of the way in which people read your books.
Yeah.
And I see it in many cases, like I write a passage in an ironic tone. For me, it's obvious that this is irony. And I think everybody who reads it will understand. I don't mean it seriously. It's just an irony.
They didn't get it.
And they don't get it. I mean, they read it in a completely flat and serious way. And they understand exactly the opposite of what I intended.
So when you were on the stage, you talk about this, so you feel strong alienated from the reality?
So it sometimes happens with some people, and you just have to accept that. I mean, there is no way to write something that people will always understand. You think about, I don't know, say the Bible. So you have Jesus coming and telling his disciples, if somebody slaps you on the cheek, turn the other cheek. And you should have only love for all people. And somehow people read this and they burn heretics and they start religious wars. I mean, how, if it's possible to get from Jesus to religious wars, then people can just, do with texts almost anything they like.
Okay.
I mean, again, I don't try to predict the future. I try to point out different possibilities, and I hope that, like Huxley, I'm offering an interesting visions.
Yeah, okay. Do you mind people call you guru?
I don't like it, but I have no control over them.
Okay. Hope to see you in Israel, maybe. We are maybe planning to go there, to see you there, Israel. Yeah.
Thank you. It was a very interesting. It's not the usual questions.
Yeah, we should talk more maybe next time. Okay. Take care.
You too. Oh, what a nice view.
You want some water?
Yes,
some water
would be nice.
Tell me more about your self-searching in Oxford, your life, your thinking, your mentality, how the change happened.
How the change happened?
Yeah.
Well, I went to Oxford to do my PhD on military history. I was always very interested in the big questions of life.
Yeah.
What are we doing here, and what is the meaning of life, and what is the source of suffering in the world, and things like that. But I got the impression that you couldn't really engage with these questions in the academic world. The academic world is kind of pushing you to focus on more and more narrow and specialized questions. On a parallel track, I'm personally very engaged and interested in these big philosophical questions.
Big tension for you.
Yeah. When I got my tenure at the university, I felt that, okay, now I'm kind of secure. Now they can't do anything to me. I'm some terrible crime, like you murder the dean or something, they can't touch you.
Yeah.
So I try and reconnect the two tracks with these big questions about humanity and about life. I guess it was luck had something to do with it, but it was very successful.
In the 20th century, there are some historians also ask big questions, like Arnold Toynbee, H.G. Wells. How this kind of tradition shaped you?
Influenced me.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest influence on me, I think, was from Jared Diamond.
Jared Diamond.
He was a specialist in birds.
Yeah.
He was the one who came and kind of showed the historians, look, you can do these things to, like, looking at humans from a bird's eye view.
From bird to bird view.
Yeah.
So you're comparing Jared Diamond. What's your advantage and disadvantage of your books?
Their strength compared with me is that I don't really have any background in biology. But if you just know biology, if you just understand evolution and you know everything there is to know about humans, you can now explain human history. I don't think that this can work because human history also has a very important ingredient of culture, of ideas, of stories, of fictions, and this is kind of my speciality. The exploration and understanding of fictions and mythologies and stories and their immense impact on human history. And if you don't give enough importance to the stories, to the fictions, you will never understand something like the Second World War or like the French Revolution, or like the rise of Christianity. There was no biological or geographical explanation.
So what do you think the major flaw of your theory? Have you ever think about it?
Of my theory?
Yeah, your perspective. You try to explain the whole world, the history, but what's the major flaw in the process?
Well, if I knew the major flaw, I would have corrected it. But there are definitely flaws. I mean,
do you have any kind of worry? Maybe I speak so much about the change, the process, but actually I don't understand very well. Do you have any kind of concern?
There are many areas.
Because your tongue in the books is so confident. So,
yes.
Yeah.
There are many areas that I talk about and I have no first-hand experience. I just rely on what the experts in the field say and I believe them. And I have no ability to kind of verify for myself that what I'm saying is true. I just believe them. So it's only second-hand knowledge. I read articles and books about artificial intelligence and what are the principles behind the program, behind the machine learning. So I trust that they are right. I hope that they are not kind of, making this colossal mistake and leading the entire world after them.
Welcome. Welcome, everybody.
Maybe say something about yourself. You're from Dutch?
Well, I am from a Dutch-German family, but I was born here. Nowadays, I'm studying to become a rabbi, conservative rabbi.
How could one be a rabbi?
You have to study and you have to pass exams.
You compare with the priest for the Christian, similar things or not similar? I mean, the role they played in the social society.
I think you are the spiritual leader of the people, and it's a very important job because you're working with people.
For us, for outsider, the Jewish education seems very interesting combination. On the one side, it's quite religious. You stick some everlasting truths. On the other side, the Jewish people seems very open to new technology, new knowledge. So how to explain the combination of this kind of paradox?
If you read the Talmud, you can see in the Talmud that they already were very much open-minded. They had already broad knowledge. They didn't say, oh, we only have to confine ourselves to one knowledge, which is the Jewish. We have to understand everything because life is about everything. Talmud is a lot about discussions, open discussions. We bring different ideas and, oh, you heard a story that came from another country. How do we relate to that story? Is it relevant to us? I think that in the Jewish philosophy, and you have to listen to everything, understand other cultures, other people. 2,000 years ago, we were fighting amongst ourselves. And because we were fighting, there were splits in the people, the temple was destroyed. So, I think that the big issue of today is how do we build bridges? How do we educate the next generation? So we build bridges to people who are different than us.
And how the Jewish people deal with the trauma? Teach the kids to know the trauma, to know their past.
We realized that the stories are very, very important. Everybody started talking about it and understanding that it is important to discuss it.
Do you think the Israel today still facing kind of existential crisis?
I want to believe that not. I think that, there are people in the world that say that they want us to disappear. But I don't think that, practically it's possible. But human beings are not always predicted. What we learn from history is that human beings, that people, never learn from history. So history can often repeat itself because we just don't learn. So we don't look with open eyes of what happened only a few years ago and say, okay, let's do it differently. So I don't know. I don't think that we are today on an immediate threat. But of course, Israelis feel that there is a threat. But I hope and I believe that we are strong enough and we'll be okay.
So in your book, you also mention about the global meaning crisis, actually. People don't know who they are and they lost identity. So how to cope with it from your point of view? How to deal with the phenomenon? We can't come back. We can't go back.
We can't go back. This should be very clear.
Yeah,
the
we
road
must create
back.
new. Yeah, what's new? What's the new meaning?
I think that always the key is to get to know ourselves better. When people ask what is the meaning of life, they usually expect to be told some story about the universe, which gives them some role to play. You have the Jewish story, the Christian story, the national story, but all these stories are false because the universe doesn't work as a story. It exists today in the world, not Israel, not Japan, not Greece, not Egypt. None of them existed 5,000 years ago. Humans coming out of Africa, the first cave art, the farming, the invention of farming, of agriculture, the invention of writing, of money, the first cities, all these things happened long before any of the nations that today exist appeared. So none of them offers you an eternal truth. And I think that what the real answer to this search for meaning is leave all these stories aside. And the key thing is to really understand the reality about yourself. So there are many tools to do it, from meditation to the tools of science, that to really explore what is the body, what is the brain, what is happening within me. If you really know the truth about yourself, I don't think that you need any of these stories anymore.
So you said you must create your own story.
No, you don't create your own story. You search for the truth, about the reality about yourself.
But you said the whole history is about story, but how to see the reality. But people never live in the kind of true reality, mostly fictional.
Yes, as I said, in order to live in society, in order to have a functioning social order, you must have all these kinds of stories. They're useful as tools. You cannot build societies without a story in which people believe. But it's the same in the case of entire nations and religions. You can't organize millions of people together if they don't agree on some common story and common laws. So we need these things. But they are just tools. They are not the ultimate reality. If you mistake these imaginary stories for the ultimate reality, then you will never know the truth about yourself, and you will start usually sacrificing people for the sake of imaginary story, like what is happening in the Middle East all the time.
它算一种启蒙啊，让你想这些问题 ，AI 什么问题，但是大部分情况下大家不会真的想嘛，大家只是盲从某种新的说法而已，新的流行而已，它不是催促你更复杂性的思考，或者说要面对自己的很多问题，它更像是一种抚慰剂的方式。启蒙还是要很多自我发现的觉醒。
你看那个乌鸦在上面，下面卧虎藏龙，哇，好漂亮！
你从建筑形上显然它是有点博采众长，就有点和像他要把其他的宗教
大同是吧？
完全大同在这里。